Welcome back. Welcome back to Living in Mexico. I'm Ana Maria Salazar. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us once again. I want to remind you that we do have a Twitter account where we provide information, news, analysis about what's going on in Mexico, both in English and in Spanish. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining us this weekend. If you are following the electoral process in Mexico, you surely heard about this this survey, this poll that was published this week by, I believe, El Universal newspaper, that gives Claudia Sheinbaum, who is presumed to be the candidate for the Morena alliance. As you know, Morena is the official party. It's the party of President Manuel Lopez Obrador. She has an advantage of 30 points against Xochitl Galvez, which also we all assume is going to be the candidate for the opposition alliance. And it created a lot of stir, a lot of questioning as to whether the poll was correct, whether there are problems in the campaign organization of Xochitl Galvez. Is she campaigning? Does she understand how behind she is compared to Claudia Sheinbaum? So there was a lot of questions in regards to this poll. Joining us to talk about these results is the author, one of the authors of this survey, Jorge Buendia. You know him. If you've been following the show for years now, you know exactly who Jorge Buendia is. He's a very well-known pollster from Buendia and Marquez. Welcome to the show, Jorge. There was a lot of questions. There was a lot of questions regarding the poll, just because of such an extreme advantage of Claudia Sheinbaum versus Xochitl Galvez. What's your reactions to these results? Were you surprised?
No, I was not surprised. When you make public the results of a survey, sometimes it's new information for us, the pollsters. But some other times we've been tracking the electoral trends. So we had been tracking, we didn't publish them at the time because Xochitl was not even the candidate for the Frente Amplio. But we knew that she had entered the race in a very well-known manner, and she's very charismatic, but that she hadn't grown that much in terms of name recognition after the first few weeks. So we knew that her momentum was more or less over. And then in that regard, these results were not a surprise. We knew that there was a very big difference in the support that Claudia Sheinbaum had and Xochitl Galvez had. In addition to this, Sheinbaum, I think that she took advantage, or she has benefited from the bounce that the Morena's nomination process gave her. I mean, a lot of media coverage, very good positive opinions, even though Marcelo Ebrard was critical of hers, of the process. So it was not a surprise in that sense. And also, let me share that the advantage that we are giving Sheinbaum over Xochitl Galvez, let me put it this way, is like middle of the road figures. There are some polls by Demotecnia and Covarrubias and Associates that they even give 50 points advantage to Sheinbaum, and we give 30%. And then polling firms associated more to the opposition to Morena, like GEA, ISA, just recently they released their data, and they have an advantage of Sheinbaum of 19 percentage points. Wow. So I think the gap between Sheinbaum and Xochitl is big. But if you look at some other public opinion indicators like positioning, and in that sense, I'm referring to the number of positive opinions about you. We see that Sheinbaum has an advantage of more than 30 percentage points over Xochitl Galvez. And also the parties that nominate Xochitl, PAN, PRI, and PRD have a mostly negative image among the Mexican public, unlike Morena. So, and I think that the only way for Xochitl to grow is that she builds a candidacy around her. I mean, a personal vote, so to speak, because the parties that are supporting her, they have a more or less clear ceiling. They have an electoral base, but it's not enough to be competitive.
Well, let me ask you this. Also in this poll, you show that Samuel Garcia, excuse me.
Garcia.
Excuse me with that. You're always supposed to turn off your phone when you're doing your radio show. Samuel Garcia also appears in this poll, and you also are polling Eduardo Verástegui, who is this individual who has been promoting himself on the right side of the political spectrum, and he polls with 4%. Samuel Garcia polls with, I believe, 7%. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That it surprises me that Eduardo Verástegui is that high. Does that mean that he has the possibility of getting enough signatures to become a viable independent candidate? And I could have thought Samuel Garcia could have been a little bit higher. I don't know. I was surprised. I don't know why I thought he could have polled better.
Yeah. In terms of Verástegui and Garcia, probably the first thing that we have to mention is that it's not clear if they are going to compete. No, so we are talking about scenarios right now. Things can change, and in the case of Verástegui, I wouldn't see it more like an expression of support for his candidacy, but rather an expression of rejection of the other alternatives that we were asking about. But it's not clear that he will be in the ballot. So it's very likely that in the near future, we will not even include him because, as you were mentioning, I mean, it seems that he will not be able to get the signatures required to be on the ballot. And in the case of Samuel Garcia, he still has a lot of room to grow. Usually when Movimiento Ciudadano polls better is when Luis Donaldo Colosio, the mayor of Monterrey, is on the ballot as a Movimiento Ciudadano candidate because his name recognition is very high. Although he's not very well known, but his father's name is very well known. So I think that in those cases, we have to wait and see what's going to happen, and that people pays more attention to the electoral process.
Well, let me ask you this last question. We're literally running out of time. We have about a minute left. What does Xochitl Galvez have to do in order to improve in these pollings? Or it's just a matter of Claudia Sheinbaum's campaigning and the support and the resources that you have? It's just going to make it very difficult for Xochitl Galvez to dramatically improve in the polls.
Well, I think that the first thing that Xochitl has to do is that she really has to establish a true alliance with the PAN and the PRI. What does this mean? That she needs to campaign around the elected officers of those parties. I mean, she can start Guanajuato, Chihuahua, Querétaro, in Mexico City, which is her stronghold. She's very well known here. She's kind of popular. We haven't seen her that much in the past few months. She needs to be getting together with the electoral base that potentially will support her, but she needs to have political operatives on her side. It seems that one of the criticisms that she's receiving is that she doesn't seem to have an experienced electoral and political team around her.
Right. It does definitely seem so. And of course, the polls seem to show that. Jorge Buendia from Buendia y Markets Polling Company. I really appreciate you joining us here on Living in Mexico. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ana Maria.
Thank you. We're going to go to commercial break. I'm Ana Maria Salazar, and you're listening and watching Living in Mexico. I'll be right back.